And all of our wonderful musicians here. It's just such a blessing that we experience here every week. And oh, yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, my topic today is the science of gratitude. And I was thinking about this after I was preparing my talk, and I thought really the importance of gratitude in our lives is probably a more appropriate topic for what I have to say today. Because the more, when I'm doing a talk, preparing a talk, the more I get into it, the more I experience it, and sometimes it just sort of it takes on a life of its own. And so I feel that this is the importance of gratitude in our lives, and yes, there is science involved as well. Now, I was thinking about a few years ago, probably 7 years ago or more, I was involved in running a blood drive at our center in California, and so I was invited by the blood bank to a luncheon. And the featured speaker at this luncheon was a very attractive, articulate lady whom I would say was probably in her late 30s. And she talked with us about her work and her children and her life. And then she mentioned that she was a heart transplant recipient. And it just knocked me over. I mean, I can remember when there was, when the surgeons were trying to work out the procedure for doing a heart transplant. And she was the first one that I've ever seen, and she had this transplant a year or so before that. And I was just, I just felt so grateful about it. And she told us all about all the blood transfusions that she had to have. And I'll tell you, I was ready to roll up my sleeve and give blood right there on the spot. And then closer to home, I have I call him a non-biological family member because he is like a family member. And I've known him since he was around 3 years old. And he's been a diabetic since he was a child. Recently, well, I would say probably maybe 3-4 years ago, his kidneys played out. And so he chose to do peritoneal dialysis so he could do it at home and continue his work, his full-time work as an airplane designer in Seattle, Washington. But it was very restrictive. And he was not getting any better. Well, a little over a year ago, I got a phone call from him, and he said that he had received a kidney transplant. And he said, I feel better than I can ever remember having felt. He said, I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with it. And of course, that felt really good for me. And earlier this year, he and his wife came and visited me here in Nashville, something I've been wanting to do ever since I've been here, but he wasn't able to leave. And then I was in their home in Seattle later on in the year, and I saw a picture of a young man on the bookcase, and I was told that he was the donor of the kidney, that he had not only donated his kidney, but he had donated lots of his other organs following or his family had done that following his death at an early age. But the picture on the bookshelf, it was a reminder for them. This was a place of honor in their home and a constant reminder of being grateful. And I'm mentioning both of these because these are two examples of people who are living gratitude. Now, there's a difference between just being grateful and living gratitude. Now, most of us don't need heart transplants or kidney transplants because we're living fine just the way we are, and we take it for granted. We forget to be grateful every day for the life that we are able to live. I found this book. I've had it a while, and I took it off the bookcase and read it again. And it's called Thanks, and it's by Dr. Robert Emmons, who's a professor at the University of California. And he says there's a difference between being grateful and feeling gratitude. We feel gratitude when something good happens, and it's just sort of natural. We feel good about it. But being grateful is a way of life. A way of life that says, I will be grateful in all circumstances. And I feel that this is something that we could all do for ourselves. We could put that on a Post-it note and put it someplace, maybe on our refrigerator door, where we'll remember to always be grateful, whatever the circumstances may be. Now, he in his book here, he has interviewed lots of people, and he interviewed organ transplant recipients, and that's what got me thinking about my personal experience with them. He interviewed people who had lived through the Holocaust. He interviewed people who had been crippled by polio and other diseases. And it was amazing when he posted these interviews. It was amazing how positive they all were. Now, there is an Institute of Heart Math in Boulder Creek. No, I know I want to say that, but it's in Boulder Creek, California, which is not very far from San Jose in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And the Heart Math Institute is a very interesting place, and I keep running into that. As a matter of fact, Dr. Jim made some reference to it when he was here. But there, they have been able to measure things about the heart and functions of the body. Now, we know that the functions of the brain and the heart are extremely important for our survival. And they actually have been able to measure the function between the brain and the heart, which they call neurocardiac function. And they have a device that will record this, and you can see pictures of it, little sine curves and that sort of thing. And so what they did is they tested people who were feeling deep appreciation. Now, they didn't use gratitude, but they used appreciation, because appreciation and gratitude are very, very close together. And when they encouraged people to concentrate on appreciation, and then they would check this function after a period of time. They found that the function was even more even and appropriate and healthy, we might say, than even relaxation. And when they were checking this with people who were angry, people who were afraid, people who were upset for various reasons, then the pictures were very different. The graphs were very different. And these conditions were reflected in the bodies of the people that they were testing. Now, they also have found that all the organs in our bodies have electromagnetic fields. And the heart has an electromagnetic field that is far greater than any of the other organs. And according to what I was reading, 5,000 times greater than the brain itself. And these electromagnetic fields are changed by various emotional states in the body. Now, in addition to this, Dr. Emmons talks about some other studies where people were invited to meditate on positive things like appreciation for 15 minutes a day for 30 days. At the end of that 30-day period, they checked them out. They found that there was a decrease in their stress hormones, an increase in hormones associated with relaxation. And there was also an increase in certain types of protective antibodies in their lives. Now, the Buddha allegedly said that hatred cannot coexist with loving kindness, that gratitude cannot coexist with vengefulness, and that gratitude cannot coexist with resentment. So we know that gratitude is good for us physically, emotionally, and every way that we can, that it has been studied. Now, the attitude of gratitude, a way of life, having gratitude as a way of life, doesn't just automatically happen. Even people who are living this way of life will sometimes have a down day. But we can cultivate an attitude of gratitude, a way of life in which we are grateful. And by structuring our life and our mind and our words, we can facilitate this. And it takes place in stages, of course. And I was thinking here, in my own life, as some of you recall, about a little over 3 years ago, I had cataract operations in both my eyes. And it really improved my vision so much that I was able to read the road signs, which had been very difficult for me to read prior to that time. And I don't think about it too much because it's just the way I am now. But when I do think about it, I just feel a great deal of gratitude for that, because I can remember when these operations were not available. And then in the early stages when they were available, they were very serious operations, and mine was just done as an outpatient there in the doctor's office. So what Dr. Ammons has done here is present some evidence-based prescriptions for becoming more grateful. And I thought these were just really great. And I'm going to share some of these with you. Now, nobody's going to do them all. But sometimes we will find some of them work and some of them don't. But the first one that he mentioned that I'm going to list with you is keeping a gratitude journal. Now, this is not the same thing as a gratitude list, which you'd probably list the same things over and over again. But the gratitude journal is something that you can do by just thinking about, at the end of the day, what were some events during the day that caused you to feel more grateful? And write them down, because writing them down tends to organize the thoughts just a little bit more. And as he says, don't worry about spelling or grammar or anything like that. Just write them down. Now, another thing was to remember the bad. Now, almost all of us probably can remember some times in our lives that were not too great, and we have overcome those things. And I know I'm able to think of several of those things, and then realize how far we've come. Now, for me, I was thinking about when I was in my later 30s. I didn't think I could make it through the day without smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. And I knew that it was unhealthy, and I really wanted to stop, but I didn't think I would be able to. But I did, and I haven't smoked in over 40 years. But it is something that I was able to overcome. And we all have things like that in our lives that seemed such great barriers at the time, and we've come over them, or overcome them, I should say. Another thing is to come to our senses, he says, which means to concentrate on the blessings that we have with touch, hearing, our sight, taste, and smell. And I threw in breathing, because that's pretty important as well, though we don't think of that as a sense. Another thing is visual reminders. And Dr. Edmonds talks about in his own house, he has plaques around reminding the family to be grateful. They have refrigerator magnets and Post-it notes around, just reminding them to be grateful. And I think we all know how that is, and we use Post-it notes to remind us of other things, and we can use them for this as well. Now, another one that I really like, because I think we abuse this a lot, is watching our language. Now, we're polite enough not to say, too bad things about other people, but we frequently will say very bad things about ourselves, accusing ourselves of being stupid, of all kinds of negative things like that. Things that we would never say about anybody else, but our subjective mind believes everything we say. And so by just cleaning up the way we speak about ourselves and our environment, then we are going to just automatically be a little bit more grateful. Okay, another one was acting as if. Even though we don't feel it, sometimes we can profit from acting as if this were the case. Now, he mentions the fact that smiling activates the muscles in our face that are associated with happiness. And whether we are smiling because we're happy or whether we're just smiling, to activate those muscles, we still will wind up being happier. And so he mentions an experiment that someone did, and they divided a large group of people into two groups, and they had one group to hold a pencil in their teeth. The other group held the pencil in their lips. And after they had done this for the period of time, they were shown cartoons. And the people who had held the pencil in their teeth thought the cartoons were much funnier than the other people did. So I guess what we should do is carry a pencil around with us and stick it between our teeth whenever we don't have anything better to do. But there are other things that we can do as well. And Carrie mentioned something about volunteering. When we volunteer, whether we're looking forward to it or not, there is a payoff. And I have frequently said that volunteering is its own service. Being in service provides us with its own reward. Also, writing thank you notes, which is not easy to do necessarily, but by writing thank you notes, we can experience greater gratitude. And simply being polite and saying thank you, whether we feel like it or not, can also help. Now, you might well imagine that the last one that I'm going to mention is prayers of gratitude. And we talk about praying quite a bit here and doing treatments and that sort of thing. And we know that in the 5 steps of our treatment, the 4th step is thanksgiving or gratitude. The prayers do not have to be long. They can be short. We need to do them on a regular basis, I think. And in the prayer, say something about gratitude, and also you can throw in an affirmation for something that you want to experience in your life. Now, the benediction that we say here each Sunday is a favorite of mine, and I think it's very good, and I like to think of it and say it even when I'm not here. I'm at home in the heart of God and all that sort of thing. And I have another one that makes me feel really good. And I'm going to share that with you. This is a revised version of the Buddhist loving kindness meditation, which some of you may have heard. And it goes like this. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease, and I am grateful. Now, remember the Buddha said if you can't be filled with loving kindness and be vengeful or have negative feelings. So I'm going to invite you to say that with me, and you can repeat after me. I am filled with loving kindness.
I am filled with loving kindness.
I am well.
I am well.
I am peaceful and at ease.
I am peaceful and at ease.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
Okay, let's do that again and just feel what you're saying as we go through it. Okay? I am filled with loving kindness.
I am filled with loving kindness.
I am well.
I am well.
I am peaceful and at ease.
I am peaceful and at ease.
And I am grateful.
And I am grateful.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.